You know, some stories are so incredible they sound like they're straight out of a Hollywood movie. But for decades, this story was a state secret. It's about one man staring at a screen who had to make a decision that could have literally ended the world as we know it. Okay, picture this. It's September 26, 1983. You're deep inside a secret Soviet command bunker just outside Moscow. Suddenly, sirens just start blaring. A massive screen flashes stark red letters, incoming missile. The system says it's detected a launch from the United States. And it's not just one, no. Within minutes, the early warning system is tracking a total of 5 intercontinental ballistic missiles, all apparently screaming towards the Soviet Union. The computer has confirmed the highest possible level of alert.
I mean, this is it. This is the moment the entire Cold War has been building towards. The protocol is crystal clear. Report the attack up the chain of command. That report would almost certainly trigger a full-scale Soviet retaliation. The final call rests with the leadership, but that first crucial report, well, that's in the hands of just one man.
So let's just pause here for a second and really absorb the pressure of this moment. You have to remember the context. We're at the absolute peak of the Cold War. Just 3 weeks before this, the Soviets had shot down a civilian plane, Korean Airlines Flight 007. Everyone on board died, including a U.S. congressman. Tensions were just dangerously, unbelievably high. Yeah, as Cold War expert Bruce G. Blair put it, the entire Soviet system was basically geared to expect an attack and to retaliate very quickly. Think about that. It was nervous, it was prone to mistakes, and it was operating on a total hair trigger. This was pretty much the worst possible moment for something like this to happen.
So who was in the hot seat? Who was the person staring at that screen with the fate of the entire world literally resting on his shoulders?
This is him, Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov. On this particular night, he was the duty officer at the Oko Nuclear Early Warning Command Center. His job was to watch those satellites and, if it came down to it, be the very first link in the chain of nuclear war.
Now here's what's really important to know about Petrov. His background was a little different. He wasn't your typical lifelong military officer. He was an engineer. He had graduated from a military aviation engineering academy. That meant he understood the technology, the nuts and bolts of the system, and maybe, just maybe, he understood its potential flaws better than his colleagues.
And this brings us right to that critical moment. He's facing this impossible choice, and he has to rely on his training, his logic, and, well, a powerful gut feeling that something was very, very wrong.
Think about this dilemma. On one hand, military protocol is absolute. You see a missile launch on the screen, you report a missile launch, period. If you don't, you're looking at a court-martial or worse. But on the other hand, his instinct, his engineer's brain, was screaming that this just wasn't real. If he made that report, he could be starting a nuclear holocaust based on bad data. And he didn't panic. He actually thought it through, right there in the moment. First, he reasoned that a real first strike from the U.S. wouldn't start with just 5 missiles. It would be a massive, all-out attack to completely overwhelm them. Second, he knew this Oko satellite system was new. It had bugs. He wasn't 100% sure he trusted it. Third, the data seemed to pass all its verification checks just too perfectly, too quickly. And then, the final crucial nail in the coffin, there was zero confirmation from ground-based radar. Nothing.
So with those sirens wailing and everyone in the room looking at him, expecting him to follow orders, Stanislav Petrov picked up the phone. But he didn't report an incoming American attack. He reported a system malfunction. It was a massive act of defiance, all based on calm, human judgment.
And guess what? He was absolutely right. A later investigation figured out exactly what happened. It was this incredibly rare fluke of nature. Sunlight was reflecting off some high-altitude clouds at just the right angle to trick the satellites into thinking they were seeing the heat signature of a missile launch. The system had been fooled by the sun.
So you'd think the guy who single-handedly stopped nuclear Armageddon would be carried out of that bunker a hero, right? Well, the aftermath is one of the most bizarre parts of this whole story.
At first, it looked good. His direct superior, a General Votintsev, praised him. He totally recognized that Petrov had shown incredible judgment, and he even promised him a reward. But then, the bureaucracy kicked in. He was officially reprimanded. And get this, it wasn't for disobeying a direct order that could have started a war. Nope, it was for a paperwork error. He hadn't filled out the war diary correctly during all the chaos. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
See, here's the thing. His actions, while correct, were a huge embarrassment.
If they gave Petrov an award, it would mean admitting that their shiny, billion-ruble early warning system was dangerously flawed. That would mean punishing the powerful scientists and officials behind it. So what did they do? They buried the whole thing. Petrov was quietly moved to a different, less important post. The stress of it all led to a nervous breakdown, and he eventually just retired.
For over a decade, nobody knew. The world had absolutely no idea how close it had come to total annihilation, or the name of the man who had saved it. It took the collapse of the Soviet Union for this incredible story to finally see the light of day. It wasn't until 1998, 15 years later, that his old commander's memoirs finally brought the incident to public attention. After that, international awards and recognition slowly started to come in, but it was long after his actions had been swept under the rug back home. He passed away in 2017, a quiet hero who the world barely got to know.
Now, to be fair, historians do debate exactly how close we came. Some, like Bruce Blair, argue that the system was so wired for a fast response that Petrov's decision was absolutely the critical one, that it stopped the whole domino chain from falling. Others, like Pavel Podvig, suggest there are more checks and balances in place, and that even if Petrov had reported an attack, it wouldn't have automatically led to a launch. But pretty much everyone agrees that his cool head and critical thinking were exactly what was needed in that terrifying moment.
So what's the big lesson here? I think in a world that's racing toward more automation and more AI, Petrov's story is this powerful reminder of why we need a human in the loop. Not just any human, but someone with the guts and the expertise to question the machine, to trust their own judgment when an alarm is blaring.
But really, I think the final word has to go to the man himself. When people would later ask him if he felt like a hero, Stanislav Petrov would just say, "I was simply doing my job, and I was the right person at the right time. That's all." Just a humble end to the story of the man who saved the world by doing nothing.